Chapter 440 Universal Thunderbolt Pool. Chapter 440 Universal Thunderbolt Pool. Jian Wushuang walked toward the thunderbolt pool. The closer he moved towards it, the more he felt how powerful those thunderbolts were. There were thousands of purple thunderbolts flickering in the violent thunderbolt pool. Each of the thunderbolts was extraordinary. "How do I use the thunderbolt pool?" Jian Wushuang asked. "Sir, you might not know this, but those purple thunderbolts are purple heaven thunderbolts. Unlike ordinary offensive thunderbolts, those are powerful but not violent. Experts can absorb them to strengthen their bodies," Unfeng replied. "Strengthen their bodies?" Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up with joy. Unfeng added, "Sir, you should know how important a powerful body is for a warrior. As experts of the Saint Realm, we might not be able to display its power, but once we reach the Lord level our bodies change and become like a weapon, so the Purple Heaven Thunderbolt is very useful. Purple Heaven Thunderbolts are rare and precious in the vast divine land. Normally, it's hard for even lords to get one, but Marquis Baymore gathered thousands of Purple Heaven Thunderbolts here and created the Universal Thunderbolt Pool. After our camp conquered Baymore Cave Mansion, many lords have come here and tried to use the Purple Heaven Thunderbolts to strengthen their bodies. However, normally, they were only able to absorb 7 or 8 thunderbolts since these thunderbolts are extremely powerful. Black Yuan Lord has probably gained the most. He absorbed 15 Purple Heaven Thunderbolts and his body became so powerful that it is comparable to a second-grade magic weapon. With such a powerful body, he ranks third among our lords. Jian Wushuang nodded in private. He was very clear about how important a powerful body was for a warrior. After all, his own body was also terrifying and extraordinary among Saint Realm experts. His body had been improving. "Though I'm only at the Saint Realm, my body can be compared with a medium third-grade magic weapon, much stronger than other lords. What's more, my body is full of potential because of heavenly creation skill. I wonder how many thunderbolts I will be able to absorb," Jian Wushuang thought with expectation. "Sir, I'll wait outside," Unfeng said and then left. Purple Heaven Thunderbolts. Jian Wushuang looked at the Universal Thunderbolt Pool with sparkling eyes. Then he flew into the pool. He immediately sensed the Purple Heaven Thunderbolts around him. Each of the thunderbolts was powerful, but they lacked offensive power. Otherwise, he would have been smashed to pieces by these thunderbolts. "Come on." Jian Wushuang immediately sat down inside the pool with his legs crossed. He closed his eyes and began operating the heavenly creation skill, directly absorbing a Purple Heaven Thunderbolt. After the thunderbolt entered his body, he immediately felt as if he had been struck by lightning. The thunderbolt crazily swept through his bones and 8 extraordinary meridians, finally changing into a purple power and merging with his body. "Nice." Jian Wushuang wore a smile. When the Purple Heaven Thunderbolt was strengthening his body, the sense of electric shock refreshed him. He did not feel any pain. In the blink of an eye, he had completely absorbed the first Purple Heaven Thunderbolt. "That's it." Jian Wushuang was surprised. He thought it would be hard to strengthen his body with the Purple Heaven Thunderbolts and that it might be accompanied by some pain, but it actually went very smoothly. He clearly felt that his body had become stronger than before. "Let's do it again," Jian Wushuang said expectantly. He immediately started absorbing the second Purple Heaven Thunderbolt. It was also done easily. Then the third Thunderbolt. Jian Wushuang found that it was very easy for him to absorb the thunderbolts. Normally, lords could absorb 7 or 8 Purple Heaven Thunderbolts, but Jian Wushuang, a Saint Realm expert, had already absorbed 10 with ease. It was a piece of cake for him. Everything went smoothly while Jian Wushuang absorbed the thunderbolts. 10 Purple Heaven Thunderbolts, but I haven't reached my limit. Black Yuan Lord absorbed 15 thunderbolts, which was the most so far. I am not a lord, but I might be able to absorb more thunderbolts than him." He immediately continued his work. The 11th Thunderbolt, the 12th Thunderbolt, the 15th Thunderbolt. He absorbed 15 Purple Heaven Thunderbolts and caught up with Black Yuan Lord, but he still felt it was easy. Then the 16th Thunderbolt, the 17th Thunderbolt. Time flies. Jian Wushuang immersed himself in absorbing the Purple Heaven Thunderbolts and lost his sense of time. He eventually opened his eyes. I'm full and can't absorb any more purple heaven thunderbolts, Jen Wushuang thought. At this point, he exited the universal thunderbolt pool. Standing by the pool, Jen Wushuang clenched his hands and felt the mighty power flowing through it. He also looked stronger than before. 37 thunderbolts, Jen Wushuang thought, with a surge of excitement in his eyes. It was true that he absorbed 37 purple heaven thunderbolts before his body finally reached its limit. 37 thunderbolts. Jen Wushuang absorbed 37 thunderbolts, over twice as many as Black Yuan Lord. Chapter 441, Cottage World. Chapter 441, Cottage World. At first, Jen Wushuang felt it was odd that he was able to completely absorb 37 purple heaven thunderbolts, but he quickly realized why. Purple heaven thunderbolts were used for building up and strengthening the body. However, Jen Wushuang cultivated the heavenly creation skill and was already a venerable master. Right now, the biggest difference between Jen Wushuang and normal warriors was his body. This wasn't in reference to his physical strength. Instead, it was his body's foundation. After he broke through to the level of venerable master, his body continued to strengthen, gaining unlimited possibilities. How much a body could be strengthened and how many purple heaven thunderbolts it could absorb depended on the body's foundation and the warrior's endurance. Obviously, Jen Wushuang was able to bear much more than those lords. Even the Black Yuan Lord could only endure 15 purple heaven thunderbolts, but Jen Wushuang was able to absorb 37 of them. Now, my body is. Jen Wushuang couldn't help inspecting his body. He could only vaguely sense its strength at the moment. Previously, my body was only on par with a medium third-grade magic weapon. However, after absorbing so many purple heaven thunderbolts, it seems to have reached a new level. But now, it should be good enough to match up against superior second-grade magic weapons, shouldn't it? Jen Wushuang thought secretly. Superior second-grade magic weapons only ranked second to first-grade magic weapons. This is the current strength of Jen Wushuang's body. Such a strong body was already incredible among many lords, not to mention those in the Saint Realm. With this body, which was comparable to superior second-grade magic weapons, if Jen Wushuang stood there and let a Stage 2 warrior, or even an ordinary Stage 3 expert, attack him, they wouldn't be able to hurt him at all. If they wanted to harm him, the opponents need to be in the upper level of Stage 3 or even possess a heaven-defying level of strength. But, even then, they would only be able to hurt him. As far as killing him though, ordinary lords wouldn't be able to do that. Since my body was strengthened so much, what about my power? Jen Wushuang was filled with expectations as he clenched his right fist and launched a punch toward the area directly in front of him. Bang! A powerful wind-breaking sound filled the area. This punch, which flew through the air, created a thunderous sound that caused the whole area to tremble. This power, Jen Wushuang was shocked. 8 times. The power of that attack was 8 times stronger than before. Jen Wushuang was very happy and surprised. With the increase of his physical strength, his power had skyrocketed. The strength of his body has risen from a medium third-grade magic weapon to a superior second-grade magic weapon. It was strengthened so much in such a short time, it was no wonder his power had also been enhanced to 8 times that of his previous ability. His overall ability surged to a new level once again. Now, if he met Deng He again, he would be able to kill him without using the blood puppet. Unfortunately, I am only in the Saint Realm. If I could break through and become a lord, I would definitely be able to absorb a lot more of the purple heaven thunderbolts inside the universal thunderbolt pool, Jen Wushuang sighed. Anyway, I should be satisfied with this. Jen Wushuang was delighted. He turned around and left the universal thunderbolt pool without any hesitation. Outside the hall, Unfeng had been waiting there for a few days now. When he noticed Jen Wushuang exiting the hall, he rushed to welcome him as quickly as possible. However, upon seeing Jen Wushuang again, Unfeng was surprised. He noticed that Jen Wushuang was obviously different from several days ago. Even though his aura was still the same as before, he could tell that Jen Wushuang was much stronger. Previously, he felt slightly stressed when facing Jen Wushuang, but that was because of Jen Wushuang's amazing battle results. Now, when Jen Wushuang was standing in front of him, he could feel a harsh oppression. It seemed that he could easily be killed by Jian Wushuang. Congratulations, Lord Swordsman. Unfeng immediately realized that Jian Wushuang had improved immensely inside the Universal Thunderbolt pool. Jian Wushuang smiled at him and said, Unfeng, take me to the place with the third opportunity. Jian Wushuang was filled with anticipation towards the third opportunity, which was also the last one in the Beimo cave mansion. After all, the first couple opportunities had already satisfied him a lot. He received a first-grade magic weapon, the Dragon King bow, from the first opportunity, granting him another terrifying trump card. He completely absorbed 37 purple heaven thunderbolts in the second opportunity, tremendously strengthening his body, which improved his overall ability enormously. Both of these opportunities had already benefited him greatly, so what about the third one? Unfeng and Jian Wushuang quickly arrived at an open space in the deepest part of the cave mansion. There, in the middle of the open space, stood a thatched cottage. A thatched cottage? Jian Wushuang was secretly surprised. Beimo Marquis left a thatched cottage in his cave mansion. That was really unexpected. My lord, this thatched cottage is the third, the most precious, and most important opportunity. It has a name to go with it. We call it the Cottage World, Unfeng said. Cottage World? Jian Wushuang was surprised. World origin? Yes, Unfeng nodded and said, Beimo Marquis had reached great heights in comprehension of world origin. Among these three opportunities, only the Cottage World is related to the world origin. I think the reason that you came to the cave mansion of Beimo Marquis is to comprehend world origin as well, right? Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded. This is it. I don't think that the opportunity inside the Cottage World will disappoint you at all, but before you enter, I must inform you that you need to proceed with caution. Everyone only receives one chance to enter the Cottage World. It's very rare, so you have to take advantage of this opportunity, Unfeng said. My lord, upon entering the thatched cottage, you will see a futon. Once you sit on it, you will understand what's special about the Cottage World. However, you will also quickly fall into a gentle slumber afterward. Slumber? Jian Wushuang looked at him with a curious expression. Don't worry. This slumber is definitely something good. You can take it as a form of enlightenment, and the longer you spend slumbering, the more beneficial it will be for you. However, the instant you wake up, the opportunity will end, Unfeng said. That's it. Jian Wushuang didn't know how to react. You have to go into Cottage World and experience it yourself to truly understand, Unfeng said with a big smile. Jian Wushuang nodded gently, then he slowly walked toward the thatched cottage. Once he reached the front door, Jian Wushuang took a deep breath, opened the door, and entered the thatched cottage. Chapter 442, Slumber. Chapter 442, Slumber. The inside of the thatched cottage only contained a few simple objects. There was a futon on the ground, a wooden table beside the wall, an oil lamp on the table, and a picture on the wall. The futon, wooden table, oil lamp, and picture were all the objects in the thatched cottage. After entering the thatched cottage, what Jian Wushuang saw first was a picture on the wall, on which there was a towering mountain. This picture, Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. The picture was not very abstruse. Instead, it was too ordinary for Jian Wushuang. Indeed, it was an ordinary picture without any mysteries. The drawing technique was also very clumsy and ordinary. In addition, the futon, wooden table, and oil lamp were also very ordinary. There was nothing extraordinary. But Jian Wushuang was clearly aware that since those things were here, it meant they were not normal. Jian Wushuang walked towards the yellowed futon while taking some time to think, then he sat down on it. As soon as he sat down, Jian Wushuang felt like the thatched cottage had utterly changed. A hint of shock flashed in Jian Wushuang's eyes. In his consciousness, the futon, which had been ordinary just now, was connected to the wooden table, oil lamp, and picture. The four simple objects seemed to have become an entire world in an instant. An entire world. Gosh! With a shocked face, Jian Wushuang sat upright on the futon. He was able to sense the structure of the invisible world even more clearly now. He was also able to clearly sense the vast world origin that pervaded the world. World, this is the world. Where there is life, there is death. Where there is destruction, there is creation. Embracing everything. Immediately, Jian Wushuang was lost in the world formed by the futon, wooden table, oil lamp, and picture. His heart completely calmed down, and his consciousness gradually became faint. After a little time passed, he fell asleep. Slumbering. Anyone who meditated in the cottage world would fall into slumber, and Jian Wushuang now was slumbering too. This status was actually a big opportunity, equivalent to enlightenment. The longer one stayed in this state, the more beneficial it would be. In his complete slumber, Jian Wushuang had totally ignored the passage of time. Outside the cottage world, Feng knew Jian Wushuang would be staying in there for a long time, so he left early. The cave mansion of Marquis Baymore had also become quiet again. Outside the cave mansion, on the flaming battlefield that covered 8 million square miles, the battles were continuing. The experts from the two major camps were still fighting for their respective interests and battle achievements. By slaughtering Deng He, Jian Wushuang had indeed won himself a lofty reputation in the flaming battlefield. Many people were in awe of him, and everyone on the flaming battlefield was talking about his feat, for now. However, as time passed, new events occurred and new experts emerged, replacing the topics regarding Jian Wushuang. That was just how the flaming battlefield was, where experts constantly emerged and fell like stars. As for Jian Wushuang, he knew nothing about this because he was in a state of slumber for 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, and then 2 years. Before he knew it, Jian Wang had been in a state of slumber for 2 years and 4 months. The inner area of the flaming battlefield. A towering khaki stone fort was standing at the top of the mountain. This khaki stone fort was the residence of the famous Heaven Stone Castle Lord. In the hall of the stone fort, before each table, there were some people sitting. Other than the Heaven Stone Castle Lord, there were 3 more people. Heaven Stone Castle Lord, you hurriedly sent for me. What's up? An indifferent man in a short robe asked. This indifferent man, as well as the other 2 people, were all top experts at the flaming battlefield, each of whom was in the overlord rank and not much weaker than Heaven Stone Castle Lord. In Marquis Piaoshua's camp, if one could kill any one of these people, he would get a special reward. Please don't worry, all your questions will be answered shortly. All in all, it is a very rare opportunity for you all. Heaven Stone Castle Lord smiled in a mysterious way. The 3 people, including the indifferent man, who were invited by Heaven Stone Castle Lord slightly frowned. Just an instant later, another person turned up in the hall. Once he appeared, everyone, including Heaven Stone Castle Lord, stood up. Master Long Xiong. Heaven Stone Castle Lord said modestly. Master Long Xiong. The 3 invited people, including the indifferent man, were all respectful. Long Xiong was from Marquis Tsungyue's camp, and he was one of their 2 heaven-defying expert. Originally, there had been 3 heaven-defying experts in Marquis Tsungyue's camp. However, Deng He was slaughtered, so there were only 2 left. Heaven Stone Castle Lord, as well as the 3 people, were all called overlords at the flaming battlefield, but they still had to be respectful in front of a heaven-defying expert. Tian Shu, you know my temperament. If you don't have something that interests me, I'm afraid you won't like the consequences. Long Xiong shot a glance at Heaven Stone Castle Lord with cold eyes. Master Long Xiong, you and the other 3 can rest assured. Heaven Stone Castle Lord smiled and said, since I have invited you here, there is definitely something very special. It's useless to talk here. Please follow me, and you'll understand. I'm sure you'll be satisfied. Hearing this, Long Xiong nodded slightly. Heaven Stone Castle Lord immediately led Long Xiong and the others towards the deepest section of the inner area. After traveling for half a day, they finally arrived at a rift. This rift was surrounded by mountains in all directions, located in a barren area with only a few trees. Tian Shu, why do you take us here? Long Xiong shot a glance at the rift below. The inner area was very vast and there were numerous similar rifts like the one below, which had no extraordinary features. Heaven Stone Castle Lord smiled in a mysterious way and gave no answer. Then, he directly jumped towards the bottom of the rift, where he proceeded to pat some of the stone walls, leaving behind several handprints. At this moment, an impressive secret entry appeared on one stone wall. That entry was not horizontal, but vertical, reaching down to the bottom of the rift. However, it was too deep to see clearly. The only thing visible was the total darkness. What's this? When Long Xiong and others saw the entry suddenly appear, their expressions became weird. This entry, is it? Long Xiong's pupils suddenly shrank. Master Long Xiong, you're right. This is the entry to a cave mansion, Heavenstone Castle Lord said and grinned. Hearing this, Long Xiong and the other 3 people were astonished. A cave mansion? An undiscovered cave mansion? And here in the inner area, a cave mansion in the inner area? Chapter 443 might be a Marquis's cave mansion. Chapter 443 might be a Marquis's cave mansion. Though most of the 330 cave mansions on the flaming battlefield had come to light or been found, some of them were still hidden. Normally, a newly found cave mansion would not have surprised Long Xiong and the others that much. What was beyond their belief was that the mansion was in the inner area. After all, nearly all the mansions under the 2 camps' control were found in the outer area or even at the edge of the battlefield. No one had thought that someone would leave their mansion in the inner area, where the final battle between the Marquises, the 322 experts in the Cloud Realm, and the great demon Di Jing had taken place. Therefore, the mansion before their eyes was the first one that had been found in the inner area. Tianshe, are you sure there is a mansion here? Long Xiong finally asked. I'm sure. Heavenstone Castle Lord nodded seriously. It was by coincidence that I found this mansion, and I checked inside it immediately, but I was not able to find out who the owner was because I was kicked out by the guards. The guards? Long Xiong was confused. Yes, the guards, they are puppet fighters, and very powerful ones at that. I can't break in on my own, so I asked you all for help, Heavenstone Castle Lord explained. The Lord's words caused the eyes of Long Xiong and the indifferent man to light up. For them, an unexplored mansion was a great treasure that they would definitely be drawn to. Let's go down now. Long Xiong suggested. The 5 people immediately landed at the bottom of the rift, then they passed through the entrance on the wall and started their adventure. A half-day later, a booming sound echoed through the rift as fierce battle took place. Swish, swish. 2 figures flashed out from the entrance. They 2 figured were Long Xiong and Heavenstone Castle Lord. They found a foothold in the air above the rift, both looking like they had been roughed up. Especially Heavenstone Castle Lord. He had a pale expression, a trace of blood on the corner of his mouth, and his aura was slowly dying out. Their eyes were filled with horror as they stared blankly at the black entrance. Those puppet fighters were so terrifying. Horrible. Lung Rong and the other 2 were overlords on the flaming battlefield. They might even have been strong enough to battle against a lord. Nonetheless, they were killed by the puppets before they could even put up a struggle. Those puppets are stronger than lords. 5 people entered the mansion together, but only Long Xiong and Heavenstone Castle Lord managed to escape. This cave mansion is unusual. Long Xiong had a grave expression as he said, we had to run away even though we were only in the outer layer. This mansion is indeed dangerous, even more so than the 2 mansions that I have previously explored. However, more danger means more treasures and a more powerful owner. I reckon this mansion belonged to a lord as powerful as Josha Lord and Black Yuan Lord. It may even belong to a marquis. A marquis? Heavenstone Castle Lord was shocked by this assumption. After all, lords would never be interested in an ordinary lord's mansion, and only experts in the Saint Realm would care about that. If the assumption was true, the mansion would definitely attract lots of experts and lords. Among the 8 Marquis mansions, only 2 had not been found so far. In the past 1,000 years, every new Marquis mansion that was found brought about a bloody war between the super experts because everyone knew that Marquises possessed incredible techniques, so their mansions had to be invaluable. As proof, even though it had been found long ago, Marquis Baymore's mansion still had 30% of its value when Jian Wushuang went there, and his adventure was very rewarding. Therefore, there had to be many more opportunities in a newly found Marquis's mansion since it had not been explored yet. The opportunities in this mansion don't belong to us, Long Xiong said while gasping. Heavenstone Castle Lord nodded at in recognition of his words. Both of them were clear about the fact that they were a bit stronger than ordinary lords and would not lose their lives inside, but it was still impossible for them to seize any of the opportunities. The shadow of being chased by a terrifying puppet fighter and being so near to death's door was still hunting them. "Let's send the news back first," said Long Xiong helplessly. Right then, they heard a voice that said, "What are you doing here, Heavenstone Castle Lord An?" Long Xiong. Along with the voice, a handsome youth with black hair approached them, carrying a long spear on his back. Oh no! After they saw the man, the expressions of Long Xiong and Heavenstone Castle Lord both became dark. They knew they could not hide the news anymore. The youth neared the rift and saw the entrance on the wall. The previous explosion had enlarged the entrance, and the aftermath attracted the youth's attention. "Is this a mansion?" The youth widened his eyes. "A mansion in the inner area? Damn!" Both Long Xiong's and Heavenstone Castle Lord's faces fell. The youth had discovered it. Chapter 444, 4 marks. Chapter 444, 4 marks. Inside Marquis Baymore's cave mansion, Zhen Wushuang finally woke up from cottage world. The moment he opened his eyes, the world connected by the futon, wooden table, lamp, and painting immediately disappeared in front of him. The 4 objects returned to being ordinary. "Amazing!" Zhen Wushuang called out. Marquis Baymore lived up to his fame as a top marquis. He must have reached great heights in world origin to create such a wonderful cottage world. "How long have I been asleep?" Zhen Wushuang was curious. Because of the long slumber, he had lost track of time. Hey! Suddenly, he looked down at his right arm, where the power of world origin was gathering. "Am I about to condense another origin mark?" He smiled. It was a fantastic slumber. He had been immersed in meditating on the world origin in such an efficient manner, and the outcome was satisfying. A short while later, a new world origin mark emerged on his right arm. Similar to Slaughter origin mark, it was shaped like flame, but this mark was purple. However, the power of the world origin was not disappearing. Instead, it started to condense a second mark, then a third mark. In the blink of an eye, 2 more marks appeared on Zhen Wushuang's right arm. 3 origin marks was the symbol of an expert in stage 3, and even those who were at the heaven-defying level could not form more than 3 marks. For a long time, Zhen Wushuang had been weak in comprehension of the origin. After all, he had not been cultivating for very long. But, now he was finally catching up. After the 3rd mark was condensed, the power still remained and continued working until a 4th mark was completely condensed. 4 origin marks. A spark flashed through Zhen Wushuang's eyes. Before, he had only possessed 1 Slaughter origin mark, but now, after meditating in the cottage world, he had 4 world origin marks as well. That was to say, he had surpassed many experts at stage 3 and even the heaven-defying level. With the power behind every mark, he was now several times stronger than before. He was above heaven-defying level, which he had reached while only relying on 1 mark, a strong body, and techniques like the heavenly creation skill, road to the underworld, and so on. An ordinary warrior has to condense 3 origin marks and awaken his soul to reach the heaven-defying level. For me, condensing 4 origin marks by itself should be enough. Zhen Wushuang pondered. Of course, he didn't forget that he also had a Slaughter origin mark, but the power from different origins could not be combined, so he could only apply 4 marks at most. Nonetheless, it did not change the fact that he had reached the heaven-defying level. Maybe he was even far above that level. With the advantages of the heavenly creation skill and having strengthened his body in Universal Thunderbolt Pool, he was a dozen times more powerful than an ordinary expert. He might even be on a par with a lord. Not only that, his double first-grade sword soul and trump cards provided him with even more support. As of now, killing an expert like Deng He would be a piece of cake for him. It is said that no matter how powerful an expert in the Saint Realm is, he has no chance of defeating a lord because there is an unbridgeable gap that separates them. However, I feel like my current strength is enough to destroy that belief. Zhen Wushuang was filled with confidence. And, as he clenched his fists, his eyes seemed to sparkle. He simply believed in himself despite the fact that he had not battled with a lord yet. After standing up, he could feel an outpouring energy exploding in his body. It seems that I've been inside for quite a while. Jian Wushuang walked out of the cottage world with a smile. Sir, you finally came out. And Feng came up to Jian Wushuang just as he walked out. How long have I been in the cottage world? Jian Wushuang asked. 2 years and 4 months, replied Feng. So long. Jian Wushuang was amazed. The amount of time that passed was much longer than he had thought. Shouldn't staying longer be better? Feng couldn't help grinning. Jian Wushuang was speechless. He handed Feng an interspatial ring and said, "There are some raw gems in this ring. Please take it as my reward to you for guiding me while I was here." Feng accepted the ring, and his eyes lit up after he used his consciousness to inspect the contents. "Thank you. Sir, why don't you stay inside a little longer? The mansion is so large, there must be some undiscovered treasures lying around. With a bit of luck, you'll be able to gain even more," Feng added. "I'm afraid I can't." Jian Wushuang shook his head and continued, "I've already benefited greatly from these 3 opportunities, so I'm satisfied." He had other things to do, so he left the mansion that same day. Chapter 445, A Feast for Experts. Chapter 445, A Feast for Experts. In Marquis Piaoshua's camp, a burly man with a purple saber on his back was noisily drinking by himself. "Lei Dao, why are you drowning your sorrows in wine?" The man heard the voice and turned around only to see Jian Wushuang walking towards him. He beamed and said, "Wow, swordsman." Jian Wushuang smiled at the man as well and continued walking towards him. "Lei Dao, it's been a while since I last saw you." In fact, it had been 3 years since they had last seen each other. They had come to Flaming Battlefield as part of a group, but 3 years ago Jian Wushuang had left to go to the inner area while Lei Dao and Shiling had stayed in the outer area. "Where are Shiling and the others?" Jian Wushuang asked. Lei Dao's eyes became dark when he heard that name. "He died 1 year ago, so did Yang Mo Bingyu and I were the only 2 survivors. She went back to our territory with Sir Axe that same year." Alas. Jian Wushuang shook his head, looking sad. The Flaming Battlefield was full of danger and everyone could lose their life at any time. They knew it very well before they stepped onto the field. "We're no match for you, swordsman." Lei Dao suddenly looked back at Jian Wushuang. "You managed to kill Deng He, an expert at heaven-defying level. That's good for you." Lei Dao admired Jian Wushuang from the bottom of his heart. 2 years ago, the news that Jian Wushuang killed Deng He had really astonished him and the others. Now, 2 years have passed, and you must have progressed even more than before, Lei Dao added. "Just so, Jian Wushuang said humbly. Right then, 2 figures appeared in the void above the camp, radiating a powerful aura that chilled the experts below. "Lords!" Jian Wushuang spotted the figures. However, after a short stay, the 2 figures headed towards the Flaming Battlefield. "Why are they going to the Flaming Battlefield?" Jian Wushuang looked curious because all the experts on the battlefield knew that lords only participated in battle on special occasions. "Just 2 more people who want to try their luck in the Marquis Mansion," answered Lei Dao. "A Marquis Mansion? What do you mean?" Jian Wushuang questioned further. "You don't know?" Lei Dao shot Jian Wushuang an odd look. "I've been cultivating inside a mansion for the last 2 years, so I do not know anything that has happened." "I see." After a nod, Lei Dao continued, "Several days ago, a new cave mansion was found in the inner area." "Inner area?" Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. As far as he knew, almost all the mansions on the Flaming Battlefield had been found in the outer area or on the edge of it, none had been found in the inner area yet. When this mansion was found, the unusual news immediately attracted the 2 camps' attention. They sent some experts there to look around and it was quickly confirmed as a Marquis Mansion. "We haven't figured out the Marquis identity, but whoever he was, the mansion must be invaluable, let alone that it's a newly found one." Now, nearly all the experts of the 2 camps have been driven crazy by the news and are hurrying there. I reckon there is already a large gathering of experts in the mansion. After all, There are over 50 lords from our camp among them, including Iron Saber Lord. Iron Saber Lord went there as well? Jian Wushuang was a little surprised, but it didn't take long for him to understand that the mansion deserved this level of attention. In this case, there must be over 100 lords inside the mansion. It really is a feast for experts. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists while feeling thrilled. He was about to witness a gather of hundreds of lords, something that only happened once in a blue moon. Swordsman, you're powerful enough to try your luck in the outer layer of the mansion. I heard some experts in Stage 3 have gone there and gained some opportunities and treasures, said Lei Dao. His words aroused Jian Wushuang's interest. He is right. This mansion has just been discovered, and as the first mansion found in inner area it must be special. It should contain many opportunities and treasures inside. I can't miss this chance, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Lei Dao, I have to go now. Jian Wushuang said goodbye to Lei Dao and went to the camp's treasure vault. Since he had made up his mind to adventure in the mansion, he had to be well prepared. He selected 2 things from the treasure vault. I want to exchange for the second manual of triple shift technique and 5 blood gems. However, I'm in a hurry to go to the inner area and can't wait for 3 days, so can you give them to me now? Jian Wushuang asked a grey-clothed elder. The elder raised his head and glanced at Jian Wushuang, then he said, okay. Normally, one had to wait 3 days to get the treasures they wanted in the exchange. If Jian Wushuang had been an ordinary expert in their camp, instead of one of the top 4 geniuses at heaven-defying level, the elder would not have approved his request. Jian Wushuang paid for the items with his battle achievement. Currently, he had an abundance of battle achievements. He had gained 10,000 points at the Josha Cave Mansion and a certain number for killing Deng Hua, an expert at the peak of Stage 3. Those battle achievements were more than enough for him to exchange for the second shift manual, so he spent the remaining achievements on blood gems. Although he still had some blood gems in his possession, after considering that he was going to a place full of lords and that he might need to use his blood puppet, more blood gems might be necessary. Having received what he wanted, Jian Wushuang headed towards the inner area. Chapter 446, Wu Ming. Chapter 446, Wu Ming. With the appearance of the Marquis Cave Mansion, the inner area had attracted everyone's attention. Even though I've been in the inner area for a long time now, I have only seen 2 experts. It seems almost all the Stage 3 experts have gone to the mansion. Setting out from the campsite, Jian Wushuang traveled at a fast speed towards the inner area. It wouldn't take him long to get to the Marquis Cave Mansion. Right at this moment. Oh! Jian Wushuang paused, looking towards a figure that was walking a short distance away from him. It was a dark-skinned bald man with a giant axe on his back. Not perceiving his token, Jian Wushuang knew that he was an expert from the opposite camp. Jian Wushuang was heading to the Marquis Cave Mansion, so it was better to ignore normal experts of the opposite camp. However, this man wasn't just any normal expert. It's him. Seeing his face, Jian Wushuang immediately thought of a name. What are the chances I would meet him here? Jian Wushuang grinned, then he moved. In the grass, the bald man, Wu Ming, was walking forward slowly with a cold and indifferent look on his face. 3 days, I haven't seen an expert from the opposite camp for 3 days. Apparently, they have all gone to the Marquis Cave Mansion. Wu Ming's eyes were cold. Humph, idiots. Opportunities are always accompanied by danger. More than 10 experts at the peak of Stage 3 have died since it was found, and so have several lords. If you're not as strong as experts like Bone King and Heavenstone Castle Lord, you will die even you are only exploring the outer layer. And those opportunities are worthless to you if you die. Wu Ming knew his strength well enough. He gave up after learning that it was a Marquis Cave Mansion. He knew it was nothing more than seeking death for him. Many experts had died in the cave mansion in just the last few days. It's better for me to stay in the inner area. Here, no one can kill me unless he's an expert at the heaven-defying level. Wu Ming was busy thinking when a sudden wind-breaking sound reverberated from nearby. Wu Ming raised his head and saw a flowing light rushing towards him. The light left a residual shadow in the air as it moved toward him in the blink of an eye. Wu Ming. While standing above an empty space in front of Wu Ming, Zhen Wushuang shouted to him. You're. After gazing at him and seeing his face, Wu Ming only thought of one name. A terrible name for him. Swordsman. Wu Ming was astonished, but he quickly calmed down and greeted him humbly. Nice to see you, Master Swordsman. What can I do for you? Wu Ming knew that with no lords present, Zhen Wushuang was invincible in the entire flaming battlefield. If he behaved himself, such an expert would not attack him just for the battle achievements. Zhen Wushuang watched his every tiny expression and smiled slightly. Wu Ming, I heard that you have a ring which can display something similar to a realm technique. Wu Ming's heart tightened. He instantly remembered that Zhen Wushuang also had a powerful realm technique. Is he after my ring? Wu Ming's heart fell as he looked at the scarlet ring on his finger. He had found it in a cave mansion by chance, and it had saved his life several times now. It was quite important to him. It was even the most important treasure he had. So it's the scarlet ring. Zhen Wushuang looked at the scarlet ring on Wu Ming's finger. He had kept it in mind ever since he heard about it from Shuiyang. He had not been striving for it, but he had unexpectedly met Wu Ming here. Since he came across it, Zhen Wushuang surely would not leave without it. I'm curious, which one is more powerful, yours or mine? Zhen Wushuang asked and smiled. Hearing this, Wu Ming's eyes narrowed, then, whoosh. Without any hesitation, Wu Ming turned and tried to flee. Run! Run! Wu Ming dared not fight with Zhen Wushuang, and he was also unwilling to give him the scarlet ring, so his only remaining option was to flee. Seeing that, Zhen Wushuang smiled. Then a vast blood river flowed out, completely covering Wu Ming and the space around him. A powerful force tried to put pressure on Wu Ming. Wu Ming had a sullen look on his face. Upon perceiving the blood river that was rushing towards him, he gritted his teeth. Then, an intangible bloody flame arose and a bloodfire domain swept out. Zhen Wushuang's blood river tried to break the bloodfire domain, but it was only able to compress it into a small area. Road to the underworld can only contain it. Even though Zhen Wushuang was surprised, he just smiled slightly and muttered, interesting. Then a stream of soaring sword essence appeared, along with a vast sword realm. They turned into intangible waves and began to flow forward. Sword realm, hundredfold realm. Before getting into Bei Mo Marquis Cave Mansion, Zhen Wushuang had only mastered the first level of the multifold realm, tenfold realm. However, he could now display the hundredfold realm. Road to the underworld and the hundredfold realm were being displayed simultaneously, immediately causing the bloodfire domain surrounding Wu Ming to break down. What? Wu Ming's face turned pale. He was confident in his scarlet ring. Even though he had heard that Zhen Wushuang had a good realm technique, he didn't think that it was stronger than his scarlet ring. But it turned out, his scarlet ring was much weaker than Zhen Wushuang's realm technique. Too much weaker. Chapter 447, Bloodfire Ring. Chapter 447, Bloodfire Ring. The bloodfire domain crumbled and Wu Ming felt like he was carrying a mountain on his back, moving as slowly as a snail. Zhen Wushuang shuttled through the air, straight towards Wu Ming. He quickly appeared in front of Wu Ming and launched a punch. Wu Ming raised his giant axe and crazily fended against it. Boom! The heavy hit knocked Wu Ming's giant axe away and Zhen Wushuang's fist continued on its path towards Wu Ming's head. Wu Ming's head was smashed, instantly bringing about his death. After killing Wu Ming, Zhen Wushuang took both his interspatial ring and scarlet ring. While holding the scarlet ring, Zhen Wushuang used a drop of his blood to bind it. The next moment, he felt a rush of information surge into his mind. Oh! Zhen Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Now he understood why the scarlet ring was able to display a realm technique. The scarlet ring, called the Bloodfire Ring, was not a magic weapon because both the material and refining method used to create it were common. But it contained a formation. This formation allowed the Bloodfire Ring to simulate a realm. Unique, strong, nice. Zhen Wushuang smiled slightly. With only a thought, the bloodfire domain swept out and began mixing with the boundless blood river, causing the power of the Blood River to instantly skyrocket. Road to the Underworld, Hundredfold Realm, and the Bloodfire Ring. With such a strong combination, I'm afraid that even lords will be suppressed by it. Jian Wushuang's eyes were full of excitement. His battle strength had improved once again. It was only due to luck that Jian Wushuang met Wu Ming on the way to the Marquis Cave Mansion and acquired the Bloodfire Ring. He continued on his way for another half-day before finally arriving at the entrance to the cave mansion. At a giant rift in the middle of a barren area, two mountains stood facing each other. On the mountains, there were two temporarily built camps stationed, in which many experts had gathered. Among the experts, the weakest was at Stage 3. Many were at the peak of Stage 3 and a few of them were even lords. Jian Wushuang's arrival at the Marquis Piaoxue campsite attracted a lot of attention. Is that Master Swordsman? It's him. He disappeared right after he killed Deng Hu 2 years ago. It seems like Swordsman has finally returned today. Inside a tent, Jian Wushuang greeted Spirit Lord, who was currently in charge this time. As one of the 4 lords in charge of the Marquis Piaoxue camp's business, Spirit Lord held a high status and many lords had to obey him. Swordsman, did you just return the Bei Mo Marquis Cave Mansion? Spirit Lord looked at Jian Wushuang. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded. I expect you must have improved a lot since you remained there for over 2 years, Spirit Lord said in a teasing manner, then he continued somewhat sternly, all right, no more nonsense. It's good that you were able to arrive here in time. I will tell you some of the details about this cave mansion. The cave mansion that lies beneath us is quite unusual. Regardless of the inner layer, which is the battlefield of lords, the outer layer is a vast and boundless maze that contains many opportunities. The experts of our camp and the Marquis Tsungyue camp have both searched through many areas in the outer layer over these last few days. But we haven't explored it thoroughly. The two camps have fought many times over opportunities and treasures, but we have always been able to gain the upper hand. I believe your arrival will increase our advantage even more. Outer layer? Maze? Jian Wushuang frowned and asked, Spirit Lord, do you have a map of the cave mansion? Yes. Spirit Lord nodded and proceeded to say, every 2 hours we update the map according to the searches currently taking place. As of now, the map is still incomplete, but something is better than nothing. At this point, Spirit Lord gave Jian Wushuang a map. After taking a glance at it, Jian Wushuang understood the basic information. Both the inner layer and the outer layer are mazes. And it's such a big mansion. Jian Wushuang marveled at it. The experts of both camps had explored the cave mansion every day since it had been found, but they still hadn't completely explored it yet. Therefore, it's easy to imagine how large it must be. When are you going inside? Spirit Lord asked. Now, Jian Wushuang said. Be careful, there should be no danger for you as long as your luck isn't bad, said Spirit Lord. Jian Wushuang nodded while thinking of a plan. Jian Wushuang quickly arrived at the entrance of the cave mansion and directly entered without hesitation. Nobody knew that there was a magnificent hall at the bottom of the cave mansion, nor did they know about the humongous ancient stone pillar that stood at the center of the hall. A skinny elder sat cross-legged in the hall, so quietly that it seemed as if he was dead. As soon as Jian Wushuang entered the cave mansion, the skinny elder suddenly raised his head, revealing a pair of eyes that seemed to glow. This aura. Young master, it's the young master's aura. Who has come here? The skinny elder's roar echoed throughout the hall. Chapter 448, Help Me, Swordsman. Chapter 448, Help Me, Swordsman. After traveling along the path to the entrance, Jian Wushuang went inside the cave mansion at the bottom of the rift. He looked around and noticed that there were 5 channels in front of him. The cave mansion was a huge maze, and each channel led to a different place. The middle one leads to the inner layer. Jian Wushuang squinted and gazed at it. Spirit Lord had warned him to be careful in the outer layer, but Jian Wushuang's chosen destination wasn't the outer layer. There were many opportunities in the outer layer, but they were insignificant opportunities that were only attractive to those Stage 3 experts. The Lord's battlefield was in the inner layer. The opportunities and treasures in the inner layer were much rarer. The outer layer was not challenging for Jian Wushuang, so he was eager to go to the inner layer. Let's go. Jian Wushuang chose the middle channel without any hesitation. The map he received from Spirit Lord, though incomplete, clearly showed how to travel from the outer layer to the inner layer. Jian Wushuang just needed to follow the map. Entering the channel, Jian Wushuang found that there were some secret chambers on both sides. There were many secret chambers in the cave mansion, most of which were empty, but a few of them hid some opportunities and treasures. This was the goal of the experts from 2 camps who were exploring the outer layer. Passing by all these secret chambers, Jian Wushuang continued walking directly towards the inner layer. Right as he walked past the entrance to one of the channels. Boom! Boom! The sound of loud explosions reverberated through the cave mansion. Bang! A figure crashed into one of the stone walls of the cave mansion, heavily enough cause a disturbance, but not enough to break the wall. Shuiyang, are you okay? A blue-clothed lady arrived next to him. It's nothing serious. Shuiyang, a cold youth with sword-shaped eyebrows, raised his head. Shuiyang, Mengyu. 3 figures approached them. They were Long Xiong, Heavenstone Castle Lord, and Fire Demon. Give me the interspatial ring you got in the secret chamber, or both of you will die. A stream of killing intent surged from Long Xiong's eyes. Just now, he saw Shuiyang and Meng Yu get an interspatial ring from a secret chamber. An interspatial ring. Over these last few days, they had been searching for treasures in the secret chambers, but each secret chamber had only possessed 1 treasure. Only 1 item to split. None of them had found an interspatial ring. No one except Shuiyang and Meng Yu. So it was naturally quite valuable. Don't even think about it, Shuiyang said and snorted. Very well, it seems you'd rather choose death. Long Xiong shouted, kill them. Long Xiong, Heavenstone Castle Lord, and Fire Demon instantly attacked them at the same time. Run. Without hesitation, both Shuiyang and Meng Yu ran towards a different channel. You think you can run? Long Xiong released a strong killing intent. As an expert at the heaven-defying level, he was much faster than Shuiyang and Meng Yu. Damn it! As he watched Long Xiong slowly catching up, Shuiyang's face turned deathly pale. He is faster than us, and once he catches us he will easily kill us. Master Water Mirror is on the way, Meng Yu said. I'm afraid we'll be dead before he can get here, Shuiyang said through gritted teeth. Water Mirror, one of the heaven-defying level experts from the Marquis Piaoxua camp, was exploring the cave mansion as well. At the very beginning, when they met Long Xiong and were attacked, Shuiyang had sent Water Mirror a message using the messaging slip. But he was exploring another channel, so it would take some time for him to arrive. What should we do? What can we do? Shuiyang was anxious. Do I have to give up on this interspatial ring? He shook his head immediately. They had gone through a lot of trouble to get it, they were naturally very unwilling to give it up. Most importantly, they believed that even if they gave him the interspatial ring, Long Xiong would still kill them. As Long Xiong approached, both Shuiyang and Meng Yu felt desperate. Suddenly, ahead of them, in the front channel, a figure appeared. It was a young man with a long sword on his back. It was Jian Wushuang. Oh, a man! Even though Jian Wushuang was walking towards the inner layer, he had yet to meet an expert from either camp. Up to this point, he had only met one of the cave mansion guards. That guard was a puppet fighter, whose strength was at the peak of stage 3. As expected, Jian Wushuang had easily dealt with it. When Jian Wushuang saw Shuiyang and Meng Yu, his expression became somewhat strange. Shuiyang? Jian Wushuang was surprised. At this moment, Shuiyang also saw Jian Wushuang. Swordsman? Shuiyang was stunned, but he was also happy. How lucky was he to have come across Jian Wushuang while he was being chased by Long Xiong. Swordsman, please, help me, Shuiyang called out urgently. Jian Wushuang realized that Shuiyang was running for his life from 3 people, and they were 3 people he recognized. Heavenstone Castle Lord, Fire Demon, and an expert of the heaven-defying level, Long Xiong? Jian Wushuang smiled while thinking to himself, that's why Shuiyang and Meng Yu decided to flee. He moved towards them without hesitation. Long Xiong, who was chasing Shui Yang, instantly changed his expression the moment he recognized Jian Wushuang. He is swordsman. Swordsman? Both Heavenstone Castle Lord and Fire Demon were astonished. The reputation of a person is like the shadow of a tree. It had been more than 2 years ago that Jian Wushuang had killed Deng Hui, but it was still something of a hot topic. After all, he was the only person on the flaming battlefield to have killed a heaven-defying level expert while at a lower level. Even now, the results of that battle had a great impact on Jian Wushuang's reputation. Chapter 449 An Encounter. Chapter 449 An Encounter. When they saw Jian Wushuang approaching, Heavenstone Castle Lord and Fire Demon both stopped where they were, but Long Xiong continued moving forward. Swordsman might have mastered a powerful realm technique and own a strong puppet fighter, but his personal strength is somewhat lacking. Long Xiong didn't fear Jian Wushuang at all. The news about Jian Wushuang killing Deng Hui caused an uproar. He was also shocked when he first heard about it, but he quickly understood that Jian Wushuang had only been able to kill Deng Hui because of the blood puppet. As for his personal level of strength, he was only just barely at the heaven-defying level. That was why Long Xiong turned up his nose at Jian Wushuang. He wasn't afraid of facing Jian Wushuang. Humph, I'm not as stupid as Deng Hui. Long Xiong glared at them with cold eyes as he rushed forward with his scarlet long spear in hand. He didn't hesitate in charging towards Shui Yang and Meng Yu, not even when Jian Wushuang moved to block his path. Go to hell! At the same moment that Long Xiong shouted out, a tall spectral image instantly appeared behind him. A scarlet ripple spread out from the long spear and formed a vortex that seemed to swallow everything in the area as if it was a black hole. Suddenly, a bloody light shot forward. That light came from the scarlet long spear that was rushing towards Jian Wushuang's head with strong and cruel killing power. It was so terrifying that even Shui Yang and Meng Yu, who stood behind Jian Wushuang, began shaking fearfully. Swordsman, be careful. Shui Yang couldn't help shouting out. Oh! Seeing the bloody light, Jian Wushuang's lips curled up, revealing a cold smile. The very next moment, he clenched his right hand and stepped forward while gathering a purple thunderbolt in his fist. As he released his strength, his fist shot out like a falling star. Seeking death. Long Xiong sneered at him. Long Xiong had gone all out, but what about Jian Wushuang? They all knew that Jian Wushuang focused on sword principle and had awakened a double first-grade sword soul. However, Jian Wushuang hadn't even unsheathed his sword. Instead, he was trying to counter the spear with his fist. Was he trying to get himself killed? However, the second Jian Wushuang's fist collided with that scarlet long spear. What? Long Xiong was shocked. He felt an immense weight behind Jian Wushuang's fist that easily deflected his scarlet long spear in a head-on collision. But it wasn't even enough to make Jian Wushuang slow down. His fist continued moving forward and struck Long Xiong's head. Bang! Long Xiong's head instantly burst open like a watermelon. During this simple exchange, Long Xiong, an expert at the heaven-defying level who was stronger than Deng Hui, was instantly killed by Jian Wushuang. The other 4 people who had been watching, Shui Yang, Meng Yu, Heavenstone Castle Lord, and Fire Demon, were speechless as they looked on in wide-eyed shock. Did he just kill an expert of the heaven-defying level in a single blow? And even worse than that, Jian Wushuang was an expert of sword principle, but he hadn't even used his sword or his sword soul phantom. What did this mean? It meant that Jian Wushuang had not even used his full strength. He had killed Long Xiong with nothing but brute force. Run! Run! Heavenstone Castle Lord shouted in panic, then he turned around and fled. Fire Demon was also panic-stricken. He swallowed, glanced at Jian Wushuang, and then fled to another tunnel as well. However, Jian Wushuang didn't chase after them. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and took Long Xiong's interspatial ring, then he turned and looked towards Shui Yang and Meng Yu. Shui Yang, I haven't seen you in a long time, but you have improved a lot, Jian Wushuang said and smiled. He noticed that Shui Yang had improved a lot since he last saw him 2 years ago. He was almost at the same level as Bone King and Heavenstone Castle Lord. His improvements were probably due to the 10,000 battle achievements he received from that task. After hearing Zhen Wushuang's words, Shuiyang came to himself and took a deep breath and said, with a bitter smile, "Yes, but my improvement was much less than yours." Zhen Wushuang looked at him with an odd smile. "By the way, why was Long Xiong, an expert at the heaven-defying level, trying to kill you? Did you find something special in the outer layer?" Zhen Wushuang was curious. Meng Yu hesitated. But Shuiyang instantly replied, "The two of us found an interspatial ring in one of the secret chambers, and Long Xiong found out." "Is that so?" Zhen Wushuang nodded and said, "Well then, I'm going on ahead. You two take care." "Thank you for your help," Shuiyang said gratefully. "It was nothing." Zhen Wushuang waved his hand and left, continuing on his way towards the inner layer. It didn't take long for him to disappear from their sight. "Shuiyang, it seems you have a good relationship with swordsmen." Meng Yu looked at Shuiyang. 2 years ago, we attacked the Josha cave mansion together. At that time, he killed Deng Hua." Shuiyang continued, "It's only been 2 years since then. I didn't expect his strength to improve so much after that battle." Meng Yu fell silent after hearing this. It had only been slightly more than 2 years since Zhen Wushuang killed Deng Hua. But, since he had relied on his realm technique and puppet fighter, his true strength had been questioned. No one thought that his strength had reached such an amazing level. "It seems he is going to the inner layer." Shuiyang gazed towards the direction in which Zhen Wushuang had disappeared. "The inner layer?" Meng Yu was surprised and said, "How could that be? Isn't the inner layer a battlefield for lords? Do you still think that his strength is only in the Saint realm?" Shuiyang shot a questioning look at Meng Yu. Meng Yu was stunned, but she quickly understood. Zhen Wushuang had killed an expert at the heaven-defying level in a single exchange. Not even a normal lord could do that, so he was definitely capable of exploring the inner layer. There will be another supreme expert in Marquis Piaoshue's camp. Chapter 450, The Encounter in an Unknown Area. Chapter 450, The Encounter in an Unknown Area. The maze seemed to be boundless. Zhen Wushuang followed the route on the map and finally arrived at its outer layer. In front of him was a bottomless abyss, above which a black rock bridge connected the two sides. Zhen Wushuang stared at the 4 statue-still figures on the bridge with narrowed eyes. "Cross that bridge and I'll get into the inner layer. However, it's not easy." Those figures were puppet fighters and were as powerful as lords, and Zhen Wushuang had to pass by them to enter the inner layer. Sword essence swept over from the triple-kill sword in Zhen Wushuang's hand, and behind him, 2 sword soul phantoms rose up high. "Go!" Zhen Wushuang rushed toward the figures like a streak of flowing light, leaving his shadows behind. The 4 puppet fighters opened their eyes just as Zhen Wushuang stepped onto the bridge, their pupils flashing with green light. 4 whooshing sounds were heard before the puppets attacked Zhen Wushuang. Zhen Wushuang's sword went dancing outward, and the flurry of blows looked like a peacock showing its tail. Bang! 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 There were 4 consecutive clashes of metal on metal, and the 4 puppets were held off for a while. Zhen Wushuang leaped twice, going around the puppets to their backs, and kept on moving. In no time, he crossed the bridge and stepped into the inner layer. When he crossed the bridge, the 4 puppets again turned into motionless statues. Not that hard. Zhen Wushuang looked back at the puppet fighters. He felt that it was easy to pass by the 4 powerful puppets, and every expert as powerful as a lord would feel the same. But, if it had been to kill the puppets, it would have been a much more difficult challenge. Therefore, he reckoned that the puppets had been left there to obstruct those who were weaker than a lord. When Zhen Wushuang arrived in the inner layer, he took out the map again. Just like the outer layer, the inner layer is also a maze consisting of secret chambers. The difference is that the chambers in the outer layer are empty, few contain opportunities or treasures, while those in the inner layer are the opposite. The marks on the map refer to the places that have been explored by other experts and where the opportunities and treasures have been taken away. I have to target those unexplored places to get my opportunities. Zhen Wushuang's eyes were fixed on the map. He was interested in the areas that had not been explored and were full of uncertainties. "Let's begin." Staring at the 3 channels in front of him, he stepped onto the left one without thinking after taking a deep breath. He marched forward courageously, for he was in a frequented area, where he could go off to the dangerous places that were marked on the map. 1 hour later, he arrived at an open space, and before him were 9 different channels. From here onward, I'll be in a place that hasn't been explored. He looked grim as he surveyed the 9 channels, and finally, he took the 4th path. The channel was dark and wide, leading him to an unknown world full of mysteries. Jian Wushuang slowed his pace and remained alert, studying the surroundings. It was clear to him that any carelessness would put him in danger. Clomp! Clomp! Suddenly, he heard footsteps in front of him. Is there someone coming? He stopped moving and looked into the darkness with a solemn expression. He guessed that he might encounter a lord of the 2 camps because most lords from the camps were trying their luck at those unexplored places in this mansion. Soon, a bent figure came into his sight, whose token could not be sensed. He is from a rival camp. Jian Wushuang immediately became on his guard. The figure approached him slowly and stopped 100 feet away. He is. Jian Wushuang stared fixedly at the figure, who was in a grey robe and had a weather-beaten face. He is Black Hill Lord from Marquis Tsungyue's camp. Jian Wushuang recognized the man at first glance due to a file that he had read. The file belonged to Deng Hui, a man he had killed, and in it was detailed information of many lords and experts. The Saint Realm? Black Hill Lord called out in amazement and stared at Jian Wushuang with sharp eyes. How can you, a boy in the Saint Realm, get into the inner layer? Who brought you in? Black Hill Lord looked down at Jian Wushuang in an overbearing manner. He thought it was impossible for a boy in the Saint Realm to break into the inner layer through the puppet fighter's guard all by himself. It had to be with someone's help, like a powerful lord. Black Hill Lord, are you questioning me? Jian Wushuang answered, arms crossed in front of his chest, looking into the lord's eyes. Questioning you? Yes, I am. So what? Black Hill Lord wore a cold smile. Boy, whoever brought in you here isn't around now. You're on your own, so why not be more humble? Oh, really? Jian Wushuang did not take his suggestion. Why is he so arrogant in front of me? Black Hill Lord's complexion looked strange as he looked Jian Wushuang up and down. So young and so arrogant. A boy in the Saint Realm with a long sword? A sliver of light flashed in Black Hill Lord's eyes. Then he said, I've heard that there is a new expert at the heaven-defying level in Marquis Piaoshua's camp who is named Swordsman. It's you, isn't it? Chapter 451, Battling a Lord. Chapter 451, Battling a Lord. Jian Wushuang did not answer the Lord's question, but just stared at him coldly. I've been in this mansion for quite a while and haven't gotten my opportunity for treasure yet, but here you are with the greatest luck around. Black Hill Lord smiled cruelly. Boy, your life has a lot of value in our camp. So, it will be a rewarding exploration as long as I kill you. The Lord held a long black spear in his hand as he spoke, and its surging power revealed its nature as a first-grade magic weapon. Filled with killing desire, Black Hill Lord moved. Swish. The spear pierced through the void and approached Jian Wushuang like a black ghost. Swirling, it targeted Jian Wushuang's throat like a snake targeting its prey. It was a fast strike, much faster than an expert in the Saint Realm could make. Is this a strike from a lord? Watching the spear coming at him, Jian Wushuang stayed calm and even admired the lord in his heart. Lords are indeed more powerful than those in the Saint Realm. Even an ordinary lord can surpass an expert at the heaven-defying level, whether in speed, power, or bodily strength. I reckon that no experts at the heaven-defying level can withstand this strike. Jian Wushuang became lost in thought. Is he too terrified to move? The overbearing Black Hill Lord sneered when seeing Jian Wushuang frozen in place. He thought that it was due to fear. When the spear was nearly touching his throat, Jian Wushuang finally reached out his hand to make a fist and threw it at the spear with all his power behind it. Boom! The two terrifying force collided together, shaking the mansion. Jian Wushuang was thrown back by the force like a flying shell and smashed into the walls. As the walls cracked, broken pieces continually fell. Is he dead? Black Hill Lord's breath surged, puffing up his hair and beard. He looked toward Jen Wushuang with ruthless eyes. To his surprise, with light footsteps, Jen Wushuang walked out from the ruins and came up to him again. How could this be? The Lord though in amazement. An ordinary expert at the heaven-defying level can hardly even withstand that strike, as 90% of my power was behind it. He, however, was not only able to withstand it, but was not even hurt. When Black Hill Lord saw that Jen Wushuang was as powerful as before without even a scratch on him, he became even more shocked. Obviously, his attack had not worked on Jen Wushuang. As Jen Wushuang stood firmly in front of the Lord, he brushed the dirt off his cloth before shooting a cold eye at him. As a lord, is this all you've got? He sneered. Say it again, I dare you. Black Hill Lord's face turned livid. Chen-ph. Jen Wushuang snorted and continued, don't talk as if you can kill me. Nevertheless, I'd love to see how you will try it. You are courting death. The Lord was enraged. A tremendous aura swept out from his body, and at the same time, he approached Jen Wushuang like a ghost and launched a series of attacks with his spear. Chew, chew, chew. 3 strikes in succession. The spear was so fast that Jen Wushuang could only see 3 blinding flashes of light coming to hunt him. Funny. He laughed and took out the triple kill sword. He twisted his wrist and simply brandished the sword with all his spiritual power, physical strength, and the power of his 4 origin marks. It might have been a simple strike, but the Lord felt the formidable force behind it. The force roared at him, smashed his attacks, and overwhelmed his body with its remaining power. Black Hill Lord let out a suppressed sound, with his face pale and blood streaming from the corner of his mouth, and he kept falling back. How could this happen? He raised his head and glared at Jen Wushuang in horror. How could he overpower me as just a boy in the Saint Realm? Under that gaze, Jen Wushuang burst out an immense sword essence, and behind him emerged 2 sword soul phantoms over 100 feet high, which increased his power. Sword soul phantoms? The Lord's mouth twitched. So, he overpowered me without using his sword soul? You are just a novice lord in the 3-cloud realm. How dare you claim that you can kill me? Jen Wushuang's voice resounded in the mansion and rocked the Lord's heart. Now, let's see who will be the one that is killed. Damn. Black Hill Lord's appearance looked grave. He knew that he could not beat Jen Wushuang, now or before, with or without the double first-grade sword soul's presence. But how can he be so powerful in only the Saint Realm? The Lord was muddled, but he had no time to solve his confusion. He had to find a way to survive. Right then, a roar was heard from far away. What's that? Jen Wushuang turned back only to find a golden figure diving toward them at amazing speed. The figure did not give any sign of being a living thing, and it turned out to be a puppet fighter. Jen Wushuang's eyes became sharp. A gold-armored puppet? Black Hill Lord was even more frightened. Run! Run! Without thinking, the Lord headed back and started running desperately. It was clear to him that he could defeat neither Jen Wushuang nor the gold-armored puppet. You're running nowhere. Jen Wushuang chased after the Lord immediately, his eyes filled with killing desire. But before he could catch up to Black Hill Lord, the puppet fighter caught up to him and hit him with a huge fist. So fast. Jen Wushuang was surprised by the puppet's speed. After all, a moment before, the gold-armored puppet was still far away when Jen Wushuang started chasing Black Hill Lord at his fastest speed. Chapter 452, The Gold-Armored Puppet. Chapter 452, The Gold-Armored Puppet. Boom. A booming sound reached Jen Wushuang from behind. He gave up chasing Black Hill Lord and turned around to face the gold-armored puppet. He thrust at the puppet with his triple-kill sword. Boom. Another booming sound and Jen Wushuang was thrown back and smashed against the wall. How terrifying his power is. Terror escaped Jen Wushuang's eyes. He had used all his power and even his double sword souls, but still, he was defeated. After knocking Jen Wushuang away, the puppet fighter dived at him again and struck him with his fist, which had the strength of billions of pounds behind it. Jen Wushuang dodged to the side quickly and the fist finally fell on the wall, leaving a large hole in it. Shocked, Jian Wushuang stared at the hole. From what he had seen, he could tell that the puppet was indeed powerful because an ordinary lord was able to do no more than crack the wall, which had been specially reinforced and was quite solid, but the puppet had smashed through it. The gold-armored puppet lives up to its reputation as the strongest one among the puppets, Jian Wushuang said in his heart. There were so many puppet fighters in the outer layer and inner layer of this mansion, and they were the biggest threats to those explorers. In the inner layer, the puppets were divided into 3 types: the copper-armored puppet, silver-armored puppet, and gold-armored puppet. Among them, the copper-armored puppet was the weakest one while the gold-armored puppet was the strongest. In addition to its power and excellent speed, the gold-armored puppet can match the battle strength of the experts in the 5-cloud realm, Jian Wushuang recalled in his mind. The biggest difference between the cloud realm and the saint realm was the difference between the cloud and the origin mark. One in the saint realm was about to comprehend the origin and generate origin marks, and when he broke into the cloud realm, his origin marks would be transformed into clouds. One's level in the cloud realm was dependent on how many clouds he had. Normally, if someone had 3 origin marks, his marks would be transformed into 3 clouds after a breakthrough and bring him up to the 3-cloud realm. For an ordinary expert in the saint realm, 3 origin marks was his maximum, and few could generate 4 marks in such a realm. Therefore, most people were only in the 3-cloud realm after their breakthrough. If they wanted to step a level higher, they had to enhance their comprehension of the origin. It was said that the highest level in the cloud realm was the legendary 9-cloud realm. However, like a legend, the people at such a level appeared once in a blue moon. Their number of clouds could also differentiate the lords from each other. The lords in the 3-cloud realm were the weakest ones and were called novice lords. Black Hill Lord, who had fought with Jian Wushuang, was among them. Novice lords were just a bit stronger than the experts at the heaven-defying level, who could stand a chance to beat the former with their full power. Although Jian Wushuang was just at the heaven-defying level, as a genius among those at the same level, he far surpassed them. Long Xiong, who had been killed by him, was the best evidence of his real battle strength. Jian Wushuang was not sure about his level, but he reckoned that he was stronger than novice lords. That was the reason why, from the very beginning, he had not taken Black Hill Lord and his arrogant words seriously. If it had not been for the gold-armored puppet's interference, he was sure that Black Hill Lord would be dead already rather than having slipped away when he was busy fighting with the puppet. In addition to novice lords, there were also intermediate lords, advanced lords, and superior lords. Intermediate lords referred to the lords in the 4-cloud realm. Advanced lords referred to the lords in the 5-cloud realm. Superior lords referred to the lords in the 6-cloud realm. And above them were marquises. The acknowledged 72 marquises were all in the 7-cloud realm or higher. With my heavenly creation skill cultivation, spiritual power, strong body, and double first-grade sword soul, I'm not weaker than any intermediate lord, and then adding my skills to that, I might be on a par with them. However, I'm still no match for the advanced lords, Jian Wushuang thought. To sum it up briefly, he concluded that his strength was outstanding among intermediate lords but weaker than advanced lords. Based on that conclusion, he changed his mind about facing the gold-armored puppet, who was as strong as an advanced lord. I'd better go now. Nothing good will come from fighting him. Having made up his mind, he released the blood river, which swept out and covered the entire tunnel. Then, he displayed the 100-fold realm of the sword realm. Meanwhile, as he activated the formation contained in the bloodfire ring on his wrist, the bloodfire domain spread out. The 3 techniques, Road to the Underworld, 100-fold realm, and bloodfire domain worked together and oppressed the puppet. Under that oppression, the puppet became slower. Sure enough, with my current power and the 3 realm techniques, I can exert pressure even on advanced lords. Jian Wushuang's eyes flickered when he saw the puppet slow down due to his realms. He then continued on forward and left the puppet far behind. Did I get rid of him? Jian Wushuang continued to move and felt relieved as the puppet was no longer in sight. Who built this mansion? Why are there so many powerful puppet fighters guarding it? Was the owner a puppet-making master? Such questions crossed his mind. After seeing so many high-quality puppets, With some in the inner layer being even as powerful as advanced lords, Jian Wushuang could do nothing but be lost in confusion. It must be hard to make those puppets. As he was thinking, a secret chamber in front of him attracted his attention. Chapter 453, Encountering an Acquaintance. Chapter 453, Encountering an Acquaintance. A secret chamber? Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up. Different from the secret chambers in the outer layer, nearly all the chambers in the inner layer contained treasures and opportunities. Nearly every untouched chamber meant there would be something to gain. And because Jian Wushuang was now in an unexplored area, the chamber before his eyes might be the same. Without thinking, Jian Wushuang opened the door and walked in. The first thing he saw was a purple saber floating in the air. The saber gave off a ruthless aura, surrounded by purple thunderbolts. Its aura. It's a first-grade magic weapon. Jian Wushuang beamed with joy. A first-grade magic weapon might have been rare in the Divine Land, but it was common in this mansion, as there were so many magic weapons, manuals, and elixirs of the first grade. Jian Wushuang went over to the saber and tried to gather it in his interspatial ring, but he was stopped by a purple thunderbolt. Get away from me. How dare you, a sword principal cultivator and in the Saint Realm, try to take hold of me? Get lost. A fierce voice echoed in Jian Wushuang's mind. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and observed the saber. Magic weapons always had their spirits, and a first-grade magic weapon spirit could be very intelligent. And this spirit of the saber was as wild as the saber itself. Interesting. Jian Wushuang smiled and reached his hand toward the saber again. Get your hands off me. As the saber let out a shrill scream, purple thunderbolts continued emerging from the blade one after another. An ordinary expert at stage 2 or 3 might have shrunk back, but Jian Wushuang was different. Although he was hit by the purple thunderbolts, Jian Wushuang was not hurt at all. Eventually, he was able to grab the saber firmly and put it into his interspatial ring by force. You're just a spirit, so stop struggling. Jian Wushuang sneered and was about to leave the chamber. Right then, he heard someone talking. There's a secret chamber here, but it seems that someone has broken in before us. Is someone coming here? Jian Wushuang walked out of the chamber with a frown. The moment he was out of the room, he saw 2 figures approaching him. One of them was a slovenly black-haired man, and the other one was a stone-faced man in a long silver robe. At that moment, they spotted Jian Wushuang as well. They seemed to be surprised upon discovering that Jian Wushuang was in the Saint Realm. And after they could see his face clearly, their facial expressions became strange. Jian Wushuang had the same expression on his face as the 2 men did while he bowed and said, Your Excellency. That black-haired man was no other than Iron Saber Lord himself. Jian Wushuang had come from the Iron Saber territory and was a commander in Iron Saber Lord's camp. Moreover, he had been on the flaming battlefield under his orders. From the very beginning, he had been an underling of this lord. Swordsman. Iron Saber Lord looked at Jian Wushuang with a frown. Never thought I would meet you here. Iron Saber, it's bold for your man to make his way here as only an expert in the Saint Realm. The stone-faced man showed a meaningful smile. He was Jian Wushuang's acquaintance. Your Excellency. Jian Wushuang greeted the other man, Silver Wing Lord. He had met the Lord once when he was still in the Iron Saber territory. At that time, the Lord had been a man of great supremacy to him and had intimidated him, but now Jian Wushuang felt quite calm seeing him again. Swordsman, Iron Saber Lord pulled a long face and continued, The inner layer is a dangerous place. Even I have to be extremely careful while exploring here. You're just in the Saint Realm and should try your luck in the outer layer. So, what are you doing here? Jian Wushuang looked up at his lord. He could see that the words of the lord were attempting to reprimand him, and that somehow warmed his heart. He understood that Iron Saber Lord had said that because he thought of him as a brother and cared for his safety. When I was serving as a commander in the Iron Saber territory, I heard that His Excellency cares for his men very much. Now, I know it's true, thought Jian Wushuang. Then he said to his lord, Your Excellency, I'm not interested in the opportunities or treasures in the outer layer. So, then you entered the inner layer? Before Iron Saber Lord could finish speaking, Silver Wing Lord chipped in with a smile. Boy, don't you know that the inner layer is a battlefield only for lords? What's your business here? Jen Wushuang could not find the words to answer that question. I can't say that it's because I think I'm no weaker than a lord. And even if I did say so, I guess they wouldn't believe me. Well, since he is already here, there is no need to figure out the reason. Iron Saber Lord waved his hand and ended the topic. He said to Jen Wushuang with concern in his eyes, the inner layer is full of danger. You're lucky to have made your way this far, but you won't always be such a lucky one. Encountering a more powerful puppet fighter will only lead you to a dead end. So, from this moment on, you're going to stay with me. Silver Wing and I will try our best to keep you safe. However, upon hearing this, Silver Wing Lord frowned and argued with him. Iron Saber, we're in a dangerous place and might meet with trouble at any time. He will only slow us down. Swordsman is my subordinate. Iron Saber Lord shot a glance at Silver Wing Lord. Silver Wing Lord forced a smile and shrugged, saying, fine. Since you're the stronger one, it's up to you. Upon hearing that, Jen Wushuang could not help rolling his eyes and saying, Your Excellencies, don't worry. I'll take care of myself. Maybe I can lend a hand if we run into danger. Lend us a hand? No. Silver Wing Lord looked at Jen Wushuang meaningfully and continued, Boy, I know that you have killed a rival at the heaven-defying level, but it will be a different story to kill a lord. You'll learn that when you've fought with a real lord. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.